I'll be honest. About a month ago, I was like, I'm not really looking forward to The Boys that much. But it turns out they actually timed this series perfectly because the itch is starting to come back for some like boy style content after
Mm,
Gen V.
yeah.
So they've whether on purpose or accidentally, I don't know if they did market research about my particular feelings, but this is coming at the right time for me.
Well, did you answer a survey anytime recently?
Probably not, no. So we got a first little teaser on Twitter
Mm,
that had some, I was about to say in-game footage, had some show footage, which was Butcher trying to get Ryan to come with him. Also,
yes.
Ryan's grown up.
Well, yeah.
Working with young actors must be so annoying, mustn't it? It's like, no, the next season, which we're going to start filming in a year, is a direct continuation. All of the other actors look the same, and the child is just 6 foot taller with a full beard.
The funny thing is, it's like with Ryan's character, they can kind of like bullshit a bit. But like, well, he's got superhero DNA in
Yeah.
him. Like,
And don't get me wrong, there might be like a little time skip after like the first episode that allows them to hide a little
well,
bit of it.
I don't know. I don't. I'm trying to remember how long he had at the end of season 3. Didn't he realize then he only had like 6 months? Butcher.
No, he just knew he was really unwell. I don't think we had a time limit on it yet. I think he just knew he was on borrowed time.
Yeah, maybe.
Um, and plus, like a trial doesn't happen that fast. We know the trial of
True.
Homelander is like a central theme.
True.
So like they can hide a little.
It
They
could be
can
a
go, well,
few
he's a
months. Yeah.
teenage boy. It's
Yeah.
been a 6 month time, but it's just so funny, especially because he's gone through that stage of growing up where
Mm.
he's got rid of like a little bit of the chubby cheeks. He looks leaner, makes it even more noticeable. But
Do you know?
it's kind of weird for us to talk about teenage boys'
Do you know
appearance as
what
much. But
they've
just
done?
funny to me.
Obviously, we know they're going to do mirrors to the current political climate in the US
Yes,
and a certain political figure, but his
Homelander is just like Joe Biden.
yeah, that's totally who I meant. Ryan gives me big certain ex-president son vibes who just stands there.
Baron.
Yeah, gives me big Baron vibes, and they're clearly doing that on purpose. But even more so in this clip.
Because at the end of season 3, with what we saw happen, we saw a little smirk from Ryan, and we're like, "Oh shit, that's going to be a problem."
Yeah.
But we also then kind of, in this clip, it seems like Ryan's still conflicted, which shows that there might be some saving him. Because he's kind of a little bit like, but my dad said he was a pedophile. And Butcher's like, he's lying to you, pal. And you can see Ryan's kind of like, he might be. That kind of, that you can see that he's not fully like, he's not consumed with the power. So he might still be savable.
Yeah,
Homelander
on that edge. He's on that edge, and I think also Butcher mentioning his mum and stuff kind of like pulls him back to being like, maybe Butcher does have some truth to him because at least my mum trusted him.
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
The way Homelander walks in, Anthony Starr is such a good actor, first and foremost.
He is great.
But the way he like X-rays his brain, he's like, "Oh, that's a big black mass. How long you got, Butch? 6 months?
Yeah.
Phenomenal. It's just such good villain acting. Because here's the thing, Homelander genuinely thinks he's the good guy. And playing a villain who genuinely thinks they're the good guy, not they think they're right, genuinely thinks they're the good guy, is actually really difficult.
Do you know what I also loved it when he like walks in? The Neverland Ranch little drop. I thought that was such a great little like real world touch.
Yeah.
It's
it's going to be outrageous. It's going to be gory. They're going to try and go for another, oh my god, that's crazy moment, like the exploding dick.
Yeah. Do you know what's going to be wild?
I think the story looks solid.
Do you know what's going to be wild? If they mirror the recent trial that happened and Homelander is found guilty, but it doesn't stop him, and then everyone still supports him, and they somehow nailed mirroring it.
So the showrunner has been talking a fair bit. He's like, we've been building up to Homelander versus Butcher. We have to deliver on it at some point, but we still got a few more seasons. But I know how I'm going to finish the story. Some people are suggesting it'd be really cool to have Butcher kill off Homelander in this season, and then have Butcher descend a little bit and become a bit of the villain instead.
Well, we did say, like, he's kind of gone a little too far the other way now because he's, like, using V to kill it's like, you've gone a bit
The,
too deep in the
the
sauce, mate.
whole Yeah, the whole concept of this is power corrupts, which is why
Mm,
heroes end up being a bit morally grey, and also do the means justify the ends?
yes.
Butcher's against the concept of superheroes. He thinks they're essentially immoral, especially once he found out Compound V existed.
Mm,
They've killed so many people, they get away with it. It's all wrong. But to right that wrong, you're now using Compound V to get
yeah.
temporary powers to deal with it. Are you now just as bad as them? That is, forgetting all of the outrageous meta references and all of that, that is at its core what this story's about. Power corrupts, and do the means justify the end? Him flipping and becoming this villain who now thinks he's like a judge, jury, and executioner over everyone once he deals with Homelander would be a really cool pivot.
Mm,
Bearing in mind how little of the boys' story from the comics they follow, because it's overall not a good story and they've kind of just adapted it to make it better,
yeah.
that could be a very interesting decision. So, oh, we
Mm,
finally dealt with Homelander, but Butcher now thinks that he's got the right to decide who lives and who dies. He might actually be worse than Homelander because he managed to beat Homelander.
yeah. And he's never acted within the law either. I wonder if it could go that way and then Ryan calls him out on it, and actually that flips Ryan back to being on the good side.
Yeah.
Mm,
Right, like imagine this kind of moment where Ryan has been convinced by Butcher that Homelander's the bad guy, but then Butcher goes too far, kills Homelander, and Ryan's like, he was a bad guy, but you're not any better.
yeah,
Like there's a story in there somewhere.
yeah.
A better writer than me can unearth that gem and make it work for sure.
I'm also looking forward to seeing potentially some of Gen V weaved into this as well.
Yes, I'm very curious because we know the characters are in there and we
Yeah,
know
they're
it
in the
leads
basement.
on.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to know how directly these stories tie in.
Mm,
Is Sam the new Black Noir, or is Black Noir someone else altogether? Because that's going to be
true.
interesting. I hope that's a bit of a mystery. I hope we
Yeah,
don't
I
get
think
that.
they will keep that a
Yeah.
mystery.
And while I'm very positive about the boys, and I don't want the show to end too soon, I think season 6 is the most they can get away with. I think
Yeah.
past season 6, you're really pushing it.
Yeah, especially considering you got this whole overlying thing of like Billy has 6 months to live. Like, there's only going to be so far you can take the story without going in a completely new set of characters and new direction.
And also, whenever you start to like get rid of main characters and rework them slightly, you
You
can only
start to
do that
repeat
so
things.
much. Yeah, you can only do so much of that before people are like, "Oh, you're just desperate for this show not to end now, and it's making it worse."
Mm,
And they need to avoid that. I think 6 seasons is the sweet spot. Bearing in mind that would also give them 3 seasons of Gen V,
which they could end
and
with Gen V getting shut down.
yeah, and 2 seasons potentially of the Mexican spin-off.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that one,
Um,
which we don't
and I
really know
think
much
that'd be a
about.
sweet spot
Yeah.
because the boys at the beginning got a lot of popularity because it was making meta jokes essentially at the expense of like Marvel and DC. If you're doing 6 seasons of a TV show, as well as 2 spin-offs that are getting multiple seasons, eventually you start to become the thing you mock.
Yeah. Depends
And
how
we're also
much
at a point,
real world stuff we give them to work with. we,
uh, and
mm,
and we are also at a point as well where we have a lot of these kind of satirical meta
mm,
superhero projects going on, which
yeah.
also hurts their staying power because they're not unique anymore. They're one of a few, if
Yeah,
that
that's
makes
a good
sense.
point. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I think if this season ends with Homelander dying at the hands of Butcher, and then we get 2 seasons of them trying to deal with Butcher, I think that's probably the sweet spot.
Yeah. I think that could
I
work.
don't. If we get to the point where it's like season 7 and 8, I'm going to start getting nervous about the quality.
Yeah, I think they need to be not, like you say, not drag this on too far because that will end up being the death of the show.
It's one of the ones like when you go back and rewatch like How I Met Your Mother or Friends or stuff, or Scrubs, any American show in reality. Take 2 seasons off, however many seasons there are, and you'll go, yeah, that's where they should have ended it. Every single time without fail.
And this is the thing, it's like you use How I Met Your Mother and Friends, which are like rare examples that it kind of got away with as long as it needed to be. Like they managed to wrap the story up well enough, and it's like you can't get away with that every time. Like they're a rare.
That is, and also How I Met Your Mother and Friends get away with that more because of just how phenomenal the first early season. People would put up with more shit because of how great it was earlier on.
Yeah.
You can't always, like you said, you can't bank on that. Get out early, and you would rather have Twitter and Instagram for the rest of the time going, I'd give anything for one more season of The Boys, rather than going, we didn't need season 7 and 8 of The Boys. They should have finished at 6.
Yeah. I mean, look at, Game of Thrones, issue wasn't that it ran too long. The issue was they rushed out the last season before the book was done, and that cost them. So these shows that that show died by its last season, so you don't want to be having the same issue.
It's the exact same reason I'm not worried about Invincible, because they're following the comics. There's only a finite amount of comics, and they're following it faithfully enough. It's not like The Boys where they're taking concepts and reworking them to be good. They're taking Invincible and they're telling that story. Once they run out of comics, they will stop because they're like, we're not going to come up with new stories because that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for The Boys. I know you are as well. It's a 3-episode drop next Thursday. So I think our plan is to both watch the first episode for next week. Maybe the first 2 episodes if I can find time.
I'll
and
probably have watched all 3, knowing me.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'll probably watch the first 2, maybe not the third, so I don't get confused.
Yeah. And then we will... My plan is to do episodes 1 and 2 next week, and then 3 and 4 the week after that, and then we'll be caught up for the weekly releases for the rest of the season. Because watching 3 hours of TV on a Thursday when I'm at work before recording the podcast, there's not enough hours.
Just don't work.
Yeah, the math ain't mathing. Yeah. I'm just booking next Thursday off for the boys.
For the boys.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm so excited, and we are so back.
We are.
We've still got movies to come this summer. It's great.